Today's recipe calls for matcha green tea. We're going to make matcha marble pound cake. This one comes from Just One Cookbook. It's a website that offers authentic Japanese cooking, easy recipes, but I'm excited for this one. I love green tea, so with that said, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is turn our oven on to 350 while we get our cake ready. So the next thing we're going to do is line a 9x5 loaf pan with wax paper or parchment paper, whichever you have. And then we're going to cut down the sides just until it touches the pan on both sides of the parchment paper. This will make it easier to line our pan with. Then we'll flip it back over. Grab a knob of butter and just butter the sides and the bottom so our parchment paper will stick to the pan. It'll make our life a lot easier. Like so. Now we'll grab our parchment paper and just go ahead and stick it in the pan. It doesn't have to be perfect. You want it to be as smooth as possible. And we will have a little bit of extra parchment paper, but you can just fold it over on the sides. Then we'll just try to smooth it out a little bit more and then fold over the excess on the side. But this is what our pan should look like. In a stand mixer or a hand mixer, whichever you have, we're going to add 160 grams or 1 1/2 sticks of unsalted room temperature butter. And we'll turn that on about medium speed for about a minute or two to spread that butter around and soften it some more. After it's gone for a minute, we're going to turn our mixer off and go ahead and scrape down the sides and the bottom of your bowl. You're going to scrape your bowl down multiple times throughout this recipe. A good rule of thumb is to scrape it down every time before you add the next set of ingredients. Now that we've scraped our bowl down, we're going to add 160 grams or 3/4 cup of granulated sugar to our bowl. And we'll turn our mixer back on for 5 minutes. And you just want to make sure your sugar and your butter is well creamed together. Creaming our butter and sugar together will create small pockets of air in our butter, which will give us a softer texture in our cake at the end. This is what it should look like. So in a separate bowl, we're going to grab 4 large eggs. Make sure your eggs are at room temperature. And I'm going to show off and crack them one-handed. Make sure to crack your eggs on a flat surface. You don't want to crack it on the side of the bowl. If you crack it on the side of the bowl, it can potentially crack the egg weird and you can get shells in your yolk or in your eggs, which we don't want. Next, we'll just whisk our eggs together. Go ahead and stab the yolks. It makes it easier to whisk together. Keep whisking your little heart out. This is what our eggs should look like. Now to our butter sugar mix, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of egg at a time. We're going to do this in 3 additions. Now that we have our first set of egg into our bowl, we're going to turn our mixer on and we're going to mix until everything's well incorporated. You're going to keep doing this until all of your egg is added. At the end, our batter is going to look curdled and broken, but don't worry, the flour will help soak some of that up. And this is what our batter should look like at the end. Next, in a separate bowl, we're going to add 200 grams of cake flour or 1 1/2 cup. Next, we'll add 1 teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. Now lightly whisk your heart out and make sure everything's well incorporated. Now that we have everything, all of our dry ingredients mixed together, we're going to grab a spoon and a sifter and we're going to sift our flour into our batter. This helps prevent the flour from clumping, so we have a smoother batter. Our batter does look broken, but don't worry, the flour will help soak up the butter and the egg, and your batter will start to turn smooth. So hit the side of the sifter. We'll do this in 3 additions as well, just like we did with the eggs. Now that our flour's in there, we'll just go ahead and fold the batter and the flour together. And you want to fold until everything's decently incorporated. You don't want to over mix it at this point. And we're using cake flour instead of all-purpose flour. Cake flours have lower protein Lower protein means less gluten is formed when you mix the batter. The less gluten formation equates to a softer, fluffier texture. And then, of course, that's what we want for our cake. So just keep mixing until your flour is decently incorporated. I may have overmixed it, and you'll see at the end of this video what I'm talking about. Now you can tell our batter is starting to form. Then we'll do our last addition of our dry ingredients. Now with this last addition, you want to make sure all of your flour is well incorporated into the batter. So make sure you scrape down the sides and the bottom of your bowl. Batter is notorious for sticking to the bottom, which leaves pockets of flour, and that's not what we want. So just keep mixing until it comes smooth like this. Next, in a separate bowl, we will add our matcha green tea powder, which is 20 grams. And we're going to add a little bit of heated milk. I cheated and heated up the milk in the microwave. You can do it in a saucepan, whichever is easier to you. We'll add a little bit at a time and go ahead and whisk that together. Then add another addition of milk and keep whisking until all of our milk is well incorporated into the green tea powder. So at this point, with the heated milk, your green tea will start to become really fragrant, which is nice. So just keep mixing until everything's well mixed together and smooth. Kind of looks like an acrylic paint in a way. And this is what it should look like after everything's well mixed. Now we'll grab our batter back and we'll add half of our batter into our green tea. So just mix really well. The final product should just be one solid color of green. So go ahead and clean your spatula off by scraping it on the sides of your bowl. And once it's scraped off, just scrape it off the bowl and throw it back into your batter. This is what your batter should look like. Next, we'll bring our batter back that doesn't have the green tea yet. And we'll add 6 dollops of our green tea batter back into our main batter. So go ahead and fold that like 3 times. I lost track of what I was doing and overfolded. Which overfolding will lose the marble, and that's what we're going for. Now we'll grab our pan back and go ahead and add our green tea batter to the bottom. Again, scraping our spatula down and scooping it off the side. And go ahead and smooth that out as best as you can. Now that's in there, we're gonna throw our marbled batter into our pan. I forgot I was filming a video, so I go ahead and switch it so you guys can see it. So go ahead and make sure all of your batter gets scraped from the bowl and put into the pan. You don't want to leave any of the good stuff behind. So go ahead and smooth out your batter. Scraping and scooping our spatula once again. It's okay to leave a little bit of batter on the top, but you don't want large globs of batter, which will burn. Now we'll tap our batter on the counter to get all of the air bubbles out. You can do that like 10 or 15 times. Now that we're done, we'll throw it in our oven and we'll set it on the middle rack and let it bake for 40 to 50 minutes. Next, we'll turn our oven down to 340. Then set a 15-minute timer to cut our cake. After the 15-minute timer, we'll leave our cake in the oven and just score the top of it. This will help direct the heat to the center of our cake to ensure that it's done in the center. So our cake's in the oven. So instead of giving you the normal spiel about liking this video, subscribing, commenting down below, and also finding me on Instagram at TaylorMakes92, let's go ahead and start on the dishes, because I don't want that batter to harden in the bowl. It's going to be a whole lot harder to clean if we did, and I don't want to waste time. I'm sure you don't either. So we'll see you here back in a few. Now after our timer for 40 minutes has gone off, we'll check the center with the toothpick, and if it comes out clean, then you know your cake's done. This is what our cake looks like. We'll go ahead and let it rest on a cooling rack for 15 minutes. I went ahead and took it out of the pan and let it rest for another 30 minutes. So our pound cake's finally done. Came out looking pretty good. Baking's not my strong suit, but I'm pleased with the way this came out. I ended up letting it cool overnight just because I got sidetracked. If that's what you plan on doing, make sure it's completely cool before you wrap it or put it in Tupperware or something like that, because if it's still warm, it'll create moisture and then you'll end up with a soggy cake, and nobody wants a soggy cake. So yeah, let's cut into it. I'm using a serrated knife because it's easier to cut. It's got some marble to it. Looks good. I'm excited to try it. Alright, so let's give our pound cake a try. By just looking at it, it looks a little dry. I may have over baked it. The recipe calls for 50 to 60 minutes. I ended up doing 40. That's really dependent on your oven. Or I may have overworked the batter a little bit, or a combination of both. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm not a strong baker, like I said, so somebody might have a better answer. But overall, the marbling looks good. I honestly lost track of what I was doing, so I didn't think it was going to have this much marble to it. But it looks good, so let's give it a try. It's nice and dense, like a pound cake should be. It's still nice and soft, really tender. Not as sweet as like an American pound cake would be. It's more of a savory style pound cake. Overall, I think it's really good. I like it a lot. So that's another video for the books. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. I think it's important to step out of your comfort zone and try new things, if that's more baking or if that's more cooking. It's important to learn all the skills, as many as you can at least, because it makes you a more well-rounded cook in the kitchen, which is always a plus. You can impress more people, am I right? But if you're ever looking for the ingredients list or the quantities or the amounts that you need, always check my description. They're always in the description. But with that said, hopefully you enjoyed this video, so please like, subscribe, comment down below, and also find me on Instagram at TaylorMakes92. We'll catch you on the next one.